Welcome back to the Math Actually podcast. Today is our fourth and final conversation with author, math educator, and mentor, Cat Gaspard, and we're ending strong. See, in this episode, we're talking about something that every teacher needs. Simple, powerful strategies that you actually can use in your classroom, even if you only have 5 minutes to prep. From confidence to clarity to classroom flow, Cat shares some real tools on this episode and mindset shifts to help you prioritize what matters, lead with purpose, and get more students talking. Let's get into it. So welcome back, Cat, to our fourth and final episode of I'll call it the Cat Gaspard series, which has been awesome. So this episode, or this particular episode, I'm excited about because we're going to chat about leading with confidence, almost tools that you can put into the teacher's toolkit. So I wanted to start this particular episode's conversation with asking you, I know that you've mentored teachers for years, so I was curious what you would say to someone who's feeling overwhelmed or burned out by all the demands that comes with teaching.
Oh, man, I've had this conversation with a lot of teachers and with myself included, honestly. And the first piece of advice is just purely a reminder of what matters most. And that's our students and our time with the students. And so then I move into a little work of, okay, demands. Let's make a list of the demands. Now, I know that a lot of us off the cuff could name ones that are very similar, but different sites, different states, different departments have a lot of different demands. And you never know what that teacher is feeling unless I ask them. And so then I would ask, okay, make a list of all the demands right now that you have. And then let's rank them in terms of necessity, right? And student learning. And then honestly, go through and what could you say no to? Because sometimes, some days, I mean, let's be honest, the demands on teachers are just, they're overwhelming. And something could drop one day and it just throws it completely off for you. And it just feels like, I don't know where to start. And there's not time in the day. And many teachers, maybe beginning teachers too, have a hard time saying no to a lot of things. And so I encourage that. Well, you've got to pick one of those things, one of those demands you have to say no to. And then work into maybe calendaring times to do these things in terms of, reviewing the teacher guidebook and lesson planning and working with the department down to answering parent emails, right? Yeah. Getting attendance done for the day. Don't beat yourself up. You'll get a reminder from the office. It'll be okay, right? Yeah. And in that too, be gentle with yourself and caring, because you are your own strength and you are how you talk to yourself, just as we tell students. And so if we just go, I'm overwhelmed. Well, okay, let's sit back. I've got my list now and I'm going to prioritize things and you're going to try your best. Yeah. And sometimes you won't be able to fulfill these, right? So a lot of times too starts there. And a lot of the times too on that list, I think grading comes up as a big part of that. Planning and grading, let's say. Yeah. So in terms of planning, can you meet with your department? Can you just be okay with trying a lesson this year and making some improvements next year? Can you simplify assessments? Do you really need 20 problems, right? Can you, and how you grade those assessments, the time that takes, right? Are there rubrics? So I really think in terms of that's a conversation to have with each teacher that's personal.
No, I love that. And I think it's interesting too, just because I know that a lot of times when teachers, I know like my colleagues, people I've talked to, even myself at times when we're feeling burned out, I like what you had said about priorities, because I think a lot of times what we try and do is we try and manage our time. right? What I always hear is it's like, well, there's just not enough hours in the day for me to get all the stuff I need to get done. And I think when we approach it, instead of approaching it as a time management, we approach it as priority management. It could kind of shift things a little bit, right? So, and I like when it made me laugh inside. I didn't I don't know if I laughed or not when you said it, but when you had mentioned the, oh, I forgot to take attendance thing, my secretaries and I basically have a running joke often that secretaries at my school, because I always forget to take attendance because I'm getting into things, and I'll hear over the loudspeaker and they don't even have to say anything anymore. They just come in and they're like, Mr. Poole. And then that's it. And now I know, oh, okay, I forgot to do attendance. They don't give me a hard time about it. It's just, I know it's important. It has to get done, but they give me these soft reminders, and it's horrible. I know it's bad, but it's just one of those things. I'm like, oh, I'm the worst at that. And they're helping me out. Right. But it made me laugh when you said that, because it's something that happens all the time.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, not at all. So my question then would be, over the last couple of episodes, we've talked about strategy, we've talked about content, right? We've talked about a lot of that. So now I want to ask you a little bit about mindset. So my question would be, what's one mindset shift that really helped you as a teacher, especially with all these demands? What was one mindset shift that really helped you?
The mindset shift started with me trying to kind of back away and not tell the students as much or show them, right? To let them explore with me instead of the I do, you do. I would get up, show a bunch of stuff, and then have them repeat it back. And once I realized that that wasn't understanding, honestly, I decided to just start to try, right? I'm going to try these small group projects. I'm going to come out it with a different angle of not just complete discovery. I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
I tried some outside resources to just have it be more collaborative, and tasks that went to that different level of understanding. I realized I needed that too, because I was just showing steps, right? And so then I shifted, and then to having students work in groups was a huge learning experience for me. Like I laughed back thinking, why was I so shocked that after a week I couldn't get seventh graders in a group of 4 to get a task done? So I think too, with that, I gave myself some patience, gave myself, some time. I did a lot of reflection, and that all of a sudden, then when I saw the students successful, I saw more light bulbs come on. I heard less of, when are we going to use this? I was enjoying myself. Grant you, I was exhausted at the end of the day from going all over that room instead of standing at the front and showing how to do. It was more of like setting them up with a good challenge and a good task. Of course, there's mathematical point and my purpose and my learning goals. I just didn't ditch the textbook or anything, but of course, it was so valuable for me to see the shift in my students that I realized from that point on, it was my 3rd year of teaching, that I would not go back to me just standing up, showing them and having them do work, that they needed to be in groups. They needed to talk. They needed to talk about things. I needed to figure out a way to how that was going to look and set up. And I floundered for years, but had successes as well. And in the end, the students really came out on top in terms of understanding my test scores as well. I remember actually I had, not that mattered, that wasn't my drive, but boy, that was nice to see. That's where the understanding really stuck.
And that makes sense too, because you're right. I think a lot of times if I'm just standing in the front the entire time, then the kids may not be, or I would argue they probably are not as engaged as they would be if they were fully immersed in the lesson or whatever it was, and tackling things together, right? I think we are social beings. So if we can allow them to be social in a way that you're saying, it can really change the game, which I think is great. And I think, like you had said, you're gonna be tired at the end of the day after approaching things that way. But I do think the benefits are great when we attack it that way. So then I guess it leads me into a simple I don't know if it's a simple question. We'll see. But I guess let's talk tools. I know that the teacher edition of Reveal Math has a lot in it. So I was just curious if you could give your advice on how teachers can use that more effectively without getting overwhelmed.
One of my favorite parts in the teacher edition is where they have the questions. There's questions that teachers can ask because I found that even if I have a short amount of time to lesson plan, if I don't purposely think about the different questions that I'm going to ask, I fall into that trap of just asking questions to keep students' attention. Like as I'm going over, what's 6 times 4? Oh, yes. And then move on, right? You can, or what's the answer? How'd you get it? Like, to get those really good conversations, I really think that the suggested questions in the teacher edition, that's a nice piece to just focus on, especially veteran teachers that know they've taught this Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2 for so many years. You can just look at the title of the chapter and know where it's going to go. And so, but if you really want to get that understanding focus and you don't have a lesson plan in front of you, that question section is to die for. I think it's really good.
That's good. Yeah. And that's kind of what I was looking for here, so that our listeners could hear this and say, okay, I see all of this. This is where I could start. This is what I could tackle. Because it sounds like if we tackle that question section, it's going to be extremely valuable. So I like that. And then it leads me to this question then. So let's say a teacher has only 5 minutes to prep. Okay, so now I know we have a lot of stuff, but let's say I only have 5 minutes. What should they focus on? Just overall, what should they focus on? If they only have 5 minutes because maybe they're overwhelmed or maybe they're just having a crazy day, what should they focus on, or what would you say is most important?
Let's go back to, I would say, the mathematical point that they want to make at the end of the lesson. What do you want students to understand, right? Not the skill, but what do you want them to understand? So that even if you're throwing together tasks for them to do, in your mind, you're still going, okay, I know that by the end of this, I'm going to have to wrap it up and make sure that they understand blank, or I'm going to see at what level they understand what my whole lesson was to begin with. That's what's important, I think.
No, that makes sense. No, it makes total sense, because if we don't know the mathematical point that we want to address, then everything else is kind of out of whack, right? Like we know we want this particular.
You're going to go all here, 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 and here, because if you don't have a lesson plan and you got 5 minutes, like.
Yeah. So then I guess, okay. So then my next question for you, I guess, would be, so we kind of chatted about, we have all these tools in Reveal Math, right? So then I want to ask you about then, with all of that being said, what about structure? Like what would you say your non-negotiables are for a strong math block?
Good question. I'm going to go back to what I was talking about previously of that social scaffolding, right? And just getting students engaged to begin with. Got to have an opener with a hook that gets students talking about something that's non-mathematical, leading them into a warm-up that asks those same possible questions that you had with the non-mathematical. There's got to be an engaging task that students can work on in small groups that don't always necessarily have to have the same answer to them. So you could purposely develop tasks instead of giving your students all these example problems. You have those in different groups, and then you're monitoring, but you need to have that whole class discussion where you bring all those ideas up. And a good way to do that, right, is to somehow visually display them. There's got to be some kind of check for understanding. Doesn't have to be an official exit ticket. It could be thumbs up, thumbs down, 1 to 5. A quick, here's a sticky note. Give me something that you learned, or give me a question that you still have. Those are the go-tos for sure.
And I like how you broke that down. And I do like the fact that hook, I do agree, hooking them into the lesson with that, I guess, like high energy or high interest rather hook, I think is that's something that I always try and do in my class. So when I heard you say that, I was like, okay, good. So if they're hooked, then you can hopefully have them for the rest, which I think is cool. All right, so let's end this episode, and I guess this series, unfortunately, but we'll end this series with some encouragement, I guess. So my question to you would be, what is one thing that teachers can do tomorrow to make their math class just a little bit better?
Try something different. Because I really want to say that I want to have them try an engaging talk activity, right, at the beginning, to where, what do you notice, what do you wonder, what would you rather, to see if you can get, so the challenge would be, on a normal day, think of yourself, how many students actually talk in the class, maybe not in small groups, but maybe just talk out loud in class. Try and double it, right?
Uh-huh.
So try something different to where you can get more kids talking. That's what I would say. Try it tomorrow, because math class will be better the more students are engaged. And the more that they talk, they're engaged.
I like how you said it. Try something different, right? So just try something different. If it works, great. And if it works, you're going to keep doing it, right? There's no harm in trying that. So I love that. So thank you so much. And I want to thank you for being so awesome throughout all of these episodes, for all of your insight and wisdom and guidance and all the strategies and advice. I just want to say thanks for being a part of this with us on the podcast. And I just can't wait to see all of the amazing things that you're going to continue to do with what you do every day.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's been really fun to think about all these things with you. So thanks.
So that wraps up our final episode in our series with the brilliant Cat Gaspard. She was amazing, and this was such a cool way to close it out. So here's your Math Actually recap. A few key takeaways that you can use tomorrow. If you're feeling overwhelmed, prioritize. Don't just time manage. Start with what matters most and work from there. Number 2, if you only have 5 minutes to prep, and we all know we have those days, just focus on the mathematical point that you want students to understand and let that guide everything. Number 3, when you're feeling stuck in a rut, simply try something different and have fun. Number 4, if you need a little boost in your class, start class with a strong opener and then have the goal to double the number of students who speak out loud. And then number 5, if you want a quick win, use the question section in the teacher edition. It's one of Cat's favorite tools for sparking deeper thinking. And finally, remember, when students talk more, they learn more. And then teaching on our side gets more joyful. Thanks for listening to Math Actually. And if this series helped you, please share it with a fellow teacher and follow for more conversations that actually make a difference. See you next time on Math Actually.